What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fights on College Football Show. Big episode on deck tonight. A lot of news. College Football 26 hype was built up today. The trailer drop. We'll cover all that. But welcome in. It's episode 102 of Play the Fights on. With your first time joining us, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Follow us on all platforms at Play the Fight Pod. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight? We still got stickers to sling around, so maybe mention the stickers. I know it's not a bar of Sydney Sweeney soap, but how we doing, Jake, nonetheless?
Yeah, I'm good. I wonder, for our listeners, is the intro as loud as it is for them as it is for us? Like
it is. It's a loud intro.
I like it. I know Jordan just put it in the private chat, but it's like a grand entrance. It's what we're all about here. We're about big starts, big starts to the show.
When I edit the show to put it on podcast feeds, I have to turn the decibels down like 5, 6. Like -5 or 6, like it's that loud. It scares the dickens out of me every single time it like pops on in the background. Yeah, it's real deal.
I had to forewarn JT when he joined the show last. I was like in the private chat before. I was like, hey, make sure your headphones are turned down because when that thing comes on, it comes on. But I like it too. I mean, it gets the people ready to go. It's another episode of Play the Fight Song. GA's already in the comments. He's on a plane right now, so safe flight to GA. Shout out for him showing up once again. But big show tonight. We're going to cover the top 10 quarterbacks on each of our list going into the 2025 season. Along with it, we're going to cover our top 5 group of 5 quarterbacks. And then we are going to, of course, mention recent news, the question of the day, including college football 26 and that recent news segment. So let's jump into it because we got a lot to talk about, and this could run a little long tonight, gentlemen. Let's go into the question of the day. Not sure who wrote it, but I do like this question. It is a would you rather format, college football style. Let's do it. It's would you rather have the original conferences from 15 to 20 years ago. So that would be the, Rutgers in the Big East, Nebraska back in the Big 12 with no playoff, or would you rather have the playoff era now, but there is no option to opt out of a bowl game? So you still get full bowl season, but you have the same playoff structure you do now. What would you choose, JP?
I assume the option that says the playoff era now and no opt-outs of bowl games means I'm also getting the craziness that's happening in the sport. Like I'm getting the people trying to like power vacuum this thing. Jake,
what do you mean by like the?
Like am I dealing with the Big Ten and SEC trying to do everything they're doing still?
Let's just go to based off last year. So it's 12-team playoff. Whatever, except the straight seeding, we're gonna have your still automatic qualifiers are the top 5 conferences. That's what we're dealing with right now. Forget anything that we might even get into news wise in a minute.
I think I'm gonna take the playoff era.
Okay, I'm glad you
for me
spend some thought
because I really do like the way conferences were aligned. But the no playoff thing going back to 2 teams feels odd given this this age in college football, because I assume we're just bringing that format into now. Like it's the same craziness with the NIL and people moving around and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like bringing that in and then only being 2 teams, I don't know. I feel like those two wouldn't mesh as well as like, let me just deal with it. And like everything that's in it, I keep the playoff era, but people are interested in the sport enough to play for their schools. There's still that school pride in a lot of ways rather than a prep for an NFL draft or opting out of 2 games at the end of the year or whatever it may be, right?
That's a fair answer. I like the breakdown. I think if everybody who's not listening live right now on YouTube or maybe checking us out on X or maybe turned away from their camera, look at this wall behind me. If you give me an option to go back 10 to 15 years, 15 to 20 years, I'm taking it. So I'll go back to the old days. I'll take a BCS 1-2. Some teams get snubbed.
The success of Nebraska, you still have the roster and the team you have now. Just letting you know.
It's the same sport now.
I'll still go back to the Big 12. I'll take it. I'm going back to the Big 12. We piss pounded a 9-3 Big 12 team last year. So I'll go back 100%. I think GA would agree. We'll go back to the Big 12. Maybe compete for that spot with Arizona State. Definitely would have put a better showing up in Dallas. Who knows? But yeah, I'll take the first option. I like the BCS era and just I'm so in a bad mental headspace of where the sport is going, and especially with the conversations that we're going to break down in recent news this week, that the old sounds so good right now. So I'll take the first option. Jake?
I'm actually with JP. I would take just the regular 12-team playoff now, straight seeding, automatic qualifiers or conference champions, and to not have opt-outs in bowl games would be huge. And I could rephrase this by saying too, you can't transfer until after the bowl games as well. Maybe I should throw that in there for like your G5 players who opt out because they're transferring, not just because
the one that I picked, does that include bowl opt-out still?
Yeah, so guys can still opt out and transfer and all that stuff. Because I think there's still some luster with bowl games when they're played at the highest level. Like look at Michigan, Alabama last year and Colorado, BYU.
Can I add one? Illinois, South Carolina.
Yep, great example. 3 bowl games, even like Miami, Iowa State was fun until Cam Ward opted out of the second half. Like those games were awesome and the hype around them was fun. So there's like, if guys are still playing, people still care about bowl games. People want to still watch bowl games. And on top of that, we get a 12-team playoff, which I think is, we have our gripes about it, but that's just kind of the fan base in us that we want to try to make everything perfect in this sport. But I think there's still a lot of good things about it. And JP made a great point in his first point was like, we could never, the way things work now and how big conferences are and how loaded and how talented a lot of teams are and the parity that I think surrounds the top right now, it would be hard to just say you can pick 2 teams and be like, that's your national championship. No, I think the playoff era is built perfectly to figure out, who are those top 6 teams who could actually win a national title in a tournament style. So I stick with that answer.
All right. So 2 on that one. I almost want to retract my answer because of the bowl game opt-outs. That's a huge piece of that because one of our big selling points on this show is bowl games matter. We cover as many bowl games, even with the opt-outs throughout the offseason and postseason. But good God, those days were great. Like it didn't matter if you were in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl or the Outback Bowl, wherever, the Champs Sports Bowl, like that was
Tex Slayer Gator Bowl.
Yeah, great poll. There's a fantastic
Point Steady Bowl.
We go all night on those. Yeah, remember the old Pacific Life Holiday Bowl back in the old Qualcomm Stadium? God, yes, we could go all night on those. But
go
that
Bowl.
My answer. Yeah, we go all night.
You Parks, to your defense for your answer, I think if you have your answer that you chose, I mean, that goes back to how valuable the regular season is. So I think we missed that nowadays. We've talked about that before, but if you went back to your old conferences and no playoff, the regular season would be magnified. Absolutely. Those games would all still matter. That Michigan-Ohio State outcome last year would have been a huge deal.
Yeah, that 7-4 versus 8-3 game like that. Those would be awesome. Like just playing to get to a specific bowl game or one step better that benefits your school, huge. But that still matters in the G5, which is why we love to talk about it. That's a good question of the day. Split answer, but a lot of possibilities there. Drop your thoughts in the comments on what you would do between those 2. Jay Bird says he likes it now. He has more hopes for more teams and fans. That's a fair place to say, Jay Bird. A little Iowa State feelings in there. You got a little chance to compete. You almost ran last year, so I get it. But drop your answer in the comment. Let us know what you think on that college football would you rather. All right, let's go into recent news. This one could take a while because a lot of recent news came out for the sport, and it kind of puts those new faces in college football in, thinking it's progressing, and the old base die hard, what the sport was founded on, kind of taking a step back on Greg Sankey and the SEC. The SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, came back this week and said, I do not need lectures from others about what is good for the game. I do not lecture others about what is good for the game, and I am looking for ideas to move us, quote unquote, as the SEC, forward. What do you guys think about this comment? Obviously, the conversation here is the SEC departing from the NCAA. It seems like it's going to happen. Your thoughts on this quote, and the situation in general, Jake?
Well, on the notes, we can lay out the next quote because it kind of ties into my entire point. And, Brian Kelly also came out and said this week that he says we want to play 9 SEC games and a Big Ten game in our non-conference.
Yeah.
I try to keep it pretty light,
all right, Brian.
Pretty appropriate for this show. I know we're, former college roommates, so anything kind of flies, but I'll be honest with you. As far as Brian Kelly's concerned, like, just fuck you, man. Like, it's ignorant, and it's kind of funny because a lot of the SEC coaches were asked about BK's comments, and they're like, no, we didn't nobody agrees to that. Like Kelly's just talking out of his ass, and it's basically he's the only one who comes up with it. But we'd be lying to say that Brian Kelly wasn't the only one thinking this, because Greg Sankey is thinking the same thing. And we've talked about this a billion times, right? These SEC teams want to box out the other schools and the other conferences. I tweeted it out the other day. Like, of course, your strength of schedule would look good when the SEC and Big Ten play one time in the non-con, and then every SEC and Big Ten school plays one group of 5 and one FCS school. And then they box out the ACC and the Big 12 and everybody else. Like, of course, their strength of schedule at the end of the year would look great. They're so worried about getting 4 teams in. It's hilarious, because a conference that claims they're the best and that they should get as many teams in as possible are so worried about guaranteed spots. But last year, if you would have, I think Andy Staples put out a bracket. If you put out a bracket of the top 16 teams in the country, 8 of them would have been SEC teams in the playoff. But we're so worried about guaranteed spots. Aren't you the best? Aren't you the conference that recruits at the highest?
Not only that, but a few of those, like South Carolina and Alabama, we just talked about, played a majority of their starters in the bowl game, or over 50%, and lost. So
correct.
What are we talking about?
Correct. My last point would be is like I'm over it. I think it's a lot of BS and smoke, and it's these spring media meetings. You need something to talk about, and they're going to try to bully their way into stuff. I'm to the point where if Big Ten and SEC want to go off and make their own league, like, have at it. We already have an NFL. You're never going to beat it. So good luck with that. And how I envision this show is, if you two want to make your own show because the SEC and the Big Ten went off and did their own thing, I'll do a show with the 95 other schools that still have something to play for more than just money. So I think I'm still going to care about Iowa State. I'm going to care about who they play. I'm going to care about the conference. I'm going to probably care about the ACC, but I think it's all bluff. I really do. At the guaranteed spots, the automatic qualifiers, I don't think they're bluffing about. But the thought process of them breaking into their own league, I think it's total bullshit. And I think it's just them trying to see if we're actually going to back down. And I don't think the Big 12 or the ACC will.
Before I give my thoughts, JP, I'll go over to you. As a fan of a Big Ten team in Iowa, how would you feel about separating from the NCAA? And what is your thoughts on this situation unbiasedly?
Yeah, I kind of think the opposite of Jake. Like, I think it's smoke, but it's pretty black smoke. I mean, something's burning there. Like, something significant's happening. Like, if they don't, yes, it's probably a little overblown saying all this stuff in spring, because they do need stuff to talk about. There's not a lot of the news cycle. They're going to pick 1 or 2 things that they can clip out of a coach or commissioner, in this case's interview or segment, and like blow that up. But I do think that they are like pretty dead serious about, like, I don't care about the sport. I care about my conference, and I care about my teams that I'm supposed to be responsible for. Now, that's his job. But the problem is there should not be a guy running one conference of math, 9 or 10 conferences in the sport that gets to control it because his conference makes the most money per TV contract. That is the whole reason this is even a conversation. If there was an overarching thing, then the NCAA didn't screw it up so bad that nobody cares about what they think anymore. They have nowhere to go. If there was a league commissioner or a sport commissioner or a commission with multiple people on it, none of this would be happening. But here we are, one guy that runs one conference of, a 10% of the sport gets to say whatever he wants, and 20% of the conferences, 2 out of the 9 or 10, get to do whatever they want because they make more money on TV contracts. It's BS. From the Big Ten's point of view, I think if you're a Big Ten or SEC fan and you just you can pound your chest about being better or more teams or more playoff appearances or tougher schedule, whatever. Like, it's part of the sport. It's the same thing people do within your conference, team by team. But if you think that you're just better than the Big 12 and you're a fan of Indiana or Michigan State, and you just think you're better than Texas Tech and Iowa State and Oklahoma State just because you're in the Big Ten, get over yourself. Like, it is just ridiculous. Like, you're not seeing that money. It's not benefiting you. These schools aren't spending money on you. They're like facility upgrades, whatever. You don't see 90% of those, 95% of those facilities. You'll never use them. It's a little ridiculous to look at it that way. If it ever happens, and I think that's like obviously like those two picking their own league and going that way, it's like the end of everything. Like obvious, that's like farther down the road, but it doesn't seem inconceivable at this point. But I think people cheering for that are thinking that's a smart move, or basically backing anything that moves us that way is just ignorance, to be honest with you. So fans, if you're a fan of the sport, you need to be a fan of the sport, not a fan of just your conference in this situation.
I was going to ask
go ahead,
JP.
Jake.
Sorry, I was just going to ask JP a quick question because he says I agree with you that the SEC is definitely out there for their own interest. I would 100% agree, but you don't think it's BS them like threatening to create their own league? Like you think they're serious about that? Because I think that part.
Yeah, well,
I think it's BS.
Yeah, I think they are serious about it at some point, but like, will they ever get there to that point where they can even start building that out? I don't know. Would the TV contracts follow? I don't know. Because to be honest with you, how exciting is a 16-team league that sits by itself? Or
could you imagine if half the NFL split up because they're like, the AFC West, the NFC West, and the NFC South. Those three divisions were the best divisions in the NFL. We should create our own league and separate from that. You think they'd still have the numbers and the money? Absolutely not.
If you get to a point where there's 32 teams, like these just Big Ten, SEC, or whatever amount, they're getting bought. If they're not in a commission with the NCAA or whoever might run the sport in 10 years, a commissioner, they're getting bought by an NFL team. They will 100% have they've already looked at private equity in some cases. You're telling me that they're not going to take a call from the Carolina Panthers being like, we'll give you this much to theoretically that'd be our farm team because you can't move guys back and forth. But hey, direct line, buddy. We'll help you do all the recruiting. We'll bring guys in. We want to be there. Like we'll be all that.
But that's a different sport in its own. That's a different league in its own. Like look at the examples of like maybe bad examples, but look at the UFL. Look at Canadian Football League. Two leagues that have no history. And if you remove even those SEC teams from college football, the entity of NCAA, FBS football into their own league, you lose all of the history. You lose all like everything that tied it into it. And now you're just creating this own league that's no different than like a minor league NFL team. And nobody has interest in that.
Yeah, I think both of you make great points. I'm on the same page as both of you. Going off what JP said, as a Nebraska fan, and I guess you can kind of go hand in hand with Iowa. They've been more in the picture than Nebraska has recently, but we're both part of teams or fans of teams that haven't made the college football playoff since it's been founded. Iowa's been close a couple of times, but Iowa State got close last year. We're still not in. Like, do we really think the separation of the leagues is going to give our team a better opportunity as a fan? Like, is this really going to benefit our programs individually? No. Like, I don't know if outside of Michigan and Ohio State the last 2 years, would the Big Ten be included in this argument? Like, I honestly am trying to think outside of Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, would they would, I mean, it's the Big 12. Like, would Sankey include the Big Ten as one of those big, powerful, strong leagues without those four brands? So we're just that close to being considered a different league like the Big 12 and the ACC are. No, it would be awful for the sport. I think it would be terrible. I don't want it at all. And there's a great comment from GA that Greg Sankey is the antithesis of this show, 100%, because he's all in on looking for the
antithesis. Is right? I got that right? Did I say that right? Okay. I was just making sure. He said antithesis.
Let me be very clear here. I just listened to Jake yap for 15 fucking minutes. Didn't interrupt him once. This kid has more grammatical errors in the group chat than anybody on planet Earth. I'm just throwing that out there. Back to what I was saying. I also don't think that these SEC schools outside of the top half, because Vanderbilt had a couple upsets last year. They're not by any means on the top half of that conference in football when it comes to the SEC. If, let's say, Ohio State were to go on the road and play at Vatech or at Duke, at Arizona State, even at Iowa State, would those fans still consider it to be a big game? Yes, then you're not that much better. Those are all big games. If you travel out and you feel like this is a big game, you got to win this out of conference game, then they're still in the same league as you. Like none of them would go in and expect to just steamroll all of those opponents, especially not Arizona State or Clemson. So, and those are part of the leagues that you're trying to separate from because you're so much better than them. It just doesn't feel that way, and it doesn't appear that way on the field.
I think to that point, that's my last point I wanted to make, and that's kind of teed up perfectly for what I want to say, is it all goes back to like the money's great, the TV's great, the play on the field's great, but where does it stem from? It stems from us. We're the fans. We pay for the tickets. We pay for the TV money, all that stuff, and it comes from fan interest. If the SEC breaks off or whatever they have in mind, think of the SEC. Think of an SEC fan, very boisterous, very prideful, thinking they're the best team in or the best conference in the country, all this kind of stuff. If they break off into their own league and they only play each other and they don't play anybody else, don't have that pride of like, we're the best team in the best conference in the country. No, you're just the best team in this 16-team new league that's just created off. You don't play anybody else. Nobody else cares. Those Big 12 fans aren't watching your games anymore. There's no relative to, we're not relating to anything that you guys play anymore. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So I think you lose fan interest from the SEC side too.
Sorry, I'm sitting on mute here because I have a 5-month-old dog that just found the squeaker in the middle of her toy. That's all she's chewing on right now. So I'm trying to save the people's ears. It sounds like our intro song of just squeaky toy. So my bad on the pause there. But go ahead, JP.
I'm just gonna say, like, I wouldn't care. Like if somebody was trying to brag to me on X about how good Alabama was a certain year, South Carolina's chance, I'd be like, awesome. You know how much that affects me and how I care about the sport? Literally zero.
That's where I'm at. I'm at like, do it. Go do it. I do not care anymore.
Yeah, and I think the problem with some of it is that the loud minority of like fans are the ones you see on X. So like maybe a lot of SEC fans like don't want that. They very much want the good for the sport, but you're not seeing that, right? You see the people that are either trolling or they're just some of the few that decided like it is that much better and there's no reason that we're in this. I personally would be like, if this got in a situation where like the Big Ten was talking about it with the SEC and trying to go away, I'd kind of be like, dude, Iowa, stay back, join the Big 12. Join the ACC. I don't care. Like,
could you imagine a season where Iowa doesn't have Iowa State on the schedule anymore and they're in this
I think that's pretty close.
But think of that though. They're in the SEC and the Big Ten merge. You're in this 30-team league where you're just kind of going 7-5 every year.
Mm-hmm.
And now you don't play, the most anticipated, not the most important always, but the most anticipated game of your season. I mean, people can be lying to themselves if it's not.
Yeah. It's not, there's ignorant Hawkeye fans that thinks it's pointless, but
it would make those first couple games feel like preseason games. It would feel like a preseason. Like we're going to play an exhibition against Charlotte. We're going to play an exhibition. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't count towards your conference or league schedule. Like it would literally be like when the Boston Red Sox go and play Northeastern University, like two different leagues matching up with each other. And it would be just terrible for fans and the sport. And I think for the first time in a while, it would shrink the sport, which the sport has been going in the opposite direction of, which is not what we want. But let's leave that there because we can go on that one all night. Let's move on to the next point. I'll give quick comments on the second part of this, the Brian Kelly one. We want to play 9 SEC games and 1 Big Ten team outside 2 non-conference games. JP, your thoughts briefly on that? I mean, Brian Kelly, you just got to do that last year, brother, besides the 1 extra SEC game. Didn't go so well. Any thoughts on that, JP?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one for some certain schools that, as we've seen with the Big Ten trying to schedule out this many teams. Like some people have different rivals and conferences that they want to play. So are you really going to get SEC schools to sign on to 9 conference games, play a Big Ten team every year, and South Carolina still got to play Clemson? I'm doubting that. Yeah. I'm doubting Georgia will continue to play Georgia Tech, so on and so forth. I read today that, a lot of Big Ten ADs and stuff were like, I don't love this, new format pitched with, 5 AQs and then 11 at large because they're playing 8 games while everybody else is playing 9. And you've heard the SEC argument they don't need to play 9 because it's tougher. Yeah, tougher schedule. It is a lot of cases. I wouldn't argue that every SEC schedule is tougher than top half of the Big Ten. But I mean, I think there needs to be
Missouri schedule last year. Do you guys remember Missouri schedule?
They have one again like that. The same thing.
UMass, Vandy, Kentucky, like
look at Indiana's is pretty rough non-con this year too, but their rivals are in conference. It is what it is. Like, I don't think he's wrong for saying that. I get it 100%. I think the whole scheduling agreement thing between the Big 12 or the Big 10 and the SEC would just be stupid. It's just like Jake talked about earlier. It's exactly what they're doing, is just finding ways to knock other people out and be like, yeah, but look at this strength schedule. Look at this strength schedule. They're not going to play the Big 12 or ACC schools anymore. They won't want to. They're like, why? Then we give them something to brag about later.
Again,
before we move.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I got one. I was just the fan interest point again. Imagine telling Clemson, or imagine telling South Carolina, you can't play Clemson anymore because you've got to schedule a Big Ten team. Imagine telling Iowa, you got to play Kentucky now instead of Iowa State. That's how you lose fan interest. That's right there is the exact point of how you lose fan interest.
Yeah, and that's where they try and rebirth like these new rivalries of kind of what they did to Nebraska in the Big Ten, is they've tried to make a few rivalries outside of Iowa. They've listed like Penn State and Minnesota. They're like, well, you matched up before, so this is a rivalry now. And it doesn't never felt like it. It still never felt like
it's
it.
Not
you just
part
can't
of the
create
history.
what the sport. Exactly. You can't create what your childhood and 50 years before was built literally into your family generations of just like, we hate this team. And you just can't build that starting now. And that's what college football is. So great point there. Before we move on to the next point, quick shout out to Jay Bird on his comment. The ISU and Iowa game brings so much revenue to the state of Iowa itself. It'd be sad to see it go. As an outsider who went to school in Iowa for 4 years, I'll even kind of vouch for it. Like, that week of football just kind of felt bigger and better. Like, it was, guys going at each other, fans of other teams. Like, it just felt different, and it felt cool to be in the state for a matchup like that. And it's something I never got to experience as a kid in Nebraska. So I would also be sad to see that one go. And plus I get to watch these two bicker at each other for a month. So it's my year. Yeah. Oh, Big Noon. Yeah. I'm glad we're not on it. So you guys can take all those slots you want. Big Noon kickoff there. That's the first couple of weeks of Big Noon are actual really good games. And they avoided the Ohio State Marshall one.
They have Oregon at Northwestern.
Yeah.
But isn't week one Ohio State?
The first two are good. The first three are stretch.
The first two. Okay. That's fair. Wait, at Northwestern, though, that's on the lake. Things can get dicey on the lake.
It's on the pond with the wind.
Yeah, that's still not done yet. So that's out on the pond. That could be fun. All right, let's move on to the next recent news piece. Before we do that, we're talking all this change in leagues, and I had to look up and see, look at the two teams I'm wearing. Neither of these two teams would be a part of that new college football league that nobody wants. This beautiful hat is from our friends over at No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. Use the code PTFS for free shipping on all of your awesome new hats. This is a part of the vintage collection, Texas Tech Red Raiders, little No Rival patch on the side. Great retro fit with the flat top. It's like those old Burger King giveaways they used to do in the 80s. Awesome hats. Check them out today over at shopnorivals.com. Shout out No Rivals. Awesome hats, awesome gear. Check them out today. All right, let's talk college football 26, gentlemen. We were all in on 25, all the hype in the world around the sport on social medias. And then this year just kind of snuck up. It felt like, here comes the reveal. It's today at this morning at, 10 a.m. What'd you guys think of it? Obviously, we saw a lot. Coaches are in the game. High school's back in Road to Glory. There's updated stadium atmosphere and pieces of the game, new players, new way to recruit. What do you think overall from what you saw today, including Enter Sandman being for Vatech and in the game in general, Jake?
Definitely not the same goosebumps I had as last year as they were counting down. That's for sure. But I mean, that's to be expected when we were deprived of the game for 10 years. I mean, as far I know you can only do so much in a trailer, but like the gameplay felt the exact same as last year as far as like how they presented it. The only thing new that kind of felt was like maybe some of the traditions, like the drone show, the Enter Sandman. That was kind of new, but it was nothing like to the gameplay where I was like, oh, that's going to be different this year. That's going to be cool. But I get it. It's the first trailer. That's kind of not the point.
Yeah, and I don't think we saw a lot. I mean, it was all like movie style clips, no score bugs, no actual plays happening. I do know that there's going to be an updated piece of the wear and tear system. It's going to be harder on the road, like they're making the camera shake more and many pieces like that. But I also kind of don't know what people are expecting. They're like, oh, it's a reskin. Like they are just building it off of a year, and they added massive pieces, it seems, like coaches and the high school piece for Road to Glory. like it's still a football game at base, people. Like, do you want them to tackle backwards now? I don't know what difference you're looking to find. So I guess that would be my next question to both of you. But JP, go ahead and give your thoughts.
Yeah, I watched it. I'd like to dive into a little more of the gameplay pieces of it. Any updates within the Dynasty world, which is where I do most of my time. Did say crossplay. That's huge because now I could do online dynasties. Is a lot of my PS5 friends didn't do that as much. I got Xbox friends that are definitely more into the online dynasty world. So now I'm pumped to be able to do that. But I think like you hit it on the head. Like, how much did you expect to switch in a year? Like, you can't start the whole reskin complaining already. The game looked good last year. We didn't need to reskin it. It's supposed to look the same. That's fine. They're going to update pieces of, ball hockey. And I assume they're going to update some pieces defensively and some skills.
They did say they updated coverage. It's updated coverages. That's big for defense.
I'm sure they'll update offensive line, and their animations and how they. I can't remember like what the phrase is for that, but like the computer controlling a patch, but like there's a word for like how a CPU person interacts with the game and like how they handle situations. Like there's multiple times in that game where like tackles would just miss 100%, not even touch a guy. But I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm not going to say like you're never going to get that excitement back when you didn't have a game for 12 years or whatever it was. Like that was just a very special moment. These ones going forward, it's going to be big for them to just hit gameplay on the head and just make this feel like a college football game and stray away from becoming Madden in any form. That's my whole thing with it.
Yeah, I think those are fair points. Any other thoughts? I know the trailer was brief and we got more deep dives, it felt like last year, and possibly we'll get those going into the July 10th release date. But, I mean, how do you feel about the music in the game? Are you excited to not hear Mo Bamba as much? Excited for Enter Sandman? I know they signed a full contract with Metallica, so possibly we'll get more music. But how do you feel on that piece? Oh, and they also said on the fight song note, this should have been off the rip for us, gentlemen. No more drum lines on the music menu. They had all the bands play fight song style of popular songs. So maybe like a Drake song from a band, from a marching band. What do you think on the music side, Jake?
I think it's fine. I mean, they do it in an actual game, so that's fine. I just hope they didn't spend that much time on putting the coaches in the game where they could have spent time like doing something actually worthwhile. I don't know about you guys, but I could care less that the coaches are in the game. It looks cool. I mean, they look pretty realistic, but like they did just fine last year. Like, put your time and effort towards something else if you really need to.
I will say
it's not just
I'd
coaches.
Like to customize my coach a little bit more in Dynasty. I get 2 outfit options and I get 1 face, like 4. I mean, let the guy be bald.
I know. I always trying to recreate Mark Mangino. Shout out Kansas. And it just was not able to last year with the abilities they gave me. But going back to coaches, it's 300 or more coaches, and 4 or 5 schools have already released who's in it. It does include offense and defensive coordinators. Yeah. So like Dana Holgerson's in the game for Nebraska. Like, so there is going to be, maybe there's some cool elements where they show them different camera angles, presentation pieces with the coaches in it. We'll have to wait and see, but fair point to make. They probably did take time away of what they could be doing outside of that by making those coaches. So we'll leave that there. What do you guys think about the cover? Cover athlete, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, and then deluxe edition with a bunch of teams, a bunch of homages to old college football rivalries, marching band members play the fight song. And what did you guys think of the 2 covers, Jake?
I'll tell you what I thought of it. It made me want to go buy my Cam Coleman stock, because that guy better be in the gym or on the field just working out right now. Because how pissed do you got to be that those 2 got the cover? For those who don't know, the wide receiver at Auburn. He also was a true freshman last year who was a freaking stud. And yeah, I'm buying motivation dark horse stock on him, especially like looking at Ryan Williams. He's like, I'm going to beat out that mofo. I'm going to be the best receiver in the SEC this year.
I did see a take out there about Ryan Williams that said he made a really cool spinny catch against Georgia, and everybody thought he was incredible. But if you look at the rest of his year, he wasn't as good as like a Jeremiah Smith was. That's a bold take. But if you do think back, I mean, Jeremiah Smith was the most dominant true freshman in college football, no doubt about it. But JP, what do you think of the covers?
I like the covers. I'm a fan of them. the deluxe one gives me the old Sports Illustrated March Madness preview vibes, where it was like all the teams participated in March Madness, and there'd be like a person or something representing that school. I don't know if you guys remember those. Those were some of the best SI covers.
Yeah, I do.
That's the vibe it was giving me.
I
like
saw
that.
Reggie Bush. I was seeing Reggie Bush on there. I was like, I thought it was going to be some like new special feature they put in the game, and then I didn't realize like Tebow was on there, Denard Robinson was on there. I'm like, they're just putting old cover athletes on there. That's dumb.
It's not dumb. It's paying homage to the games that got us here.
Put Joey Harrington in there, damn it.
Brad Zabransky.
Yeah, put Zabransky on there. Good pull there. But I was looking at Denard Robinson. I mean, that guy graced the cover of the game as a quarterback, and he graced 26 as a lineman. Man, he put on some LBs.
Cover 3, their podcast, thought it was Devin Gardner. I'm like, come on, guys. We're not that old. Like, figure it out.
Number 98.
It's not Gardner. It's Robinson. Come on.
That was one time I went back and I was watching the Gardner game, and him wearing 98. I get the point of it, but good God, it looks bad on a quarterback. Quick point there. All right, let's leave the college football 26 conversation there. We're already 40 minutes into tonight's show, so let's get to the main point of it. Before we do so, I want to remind you to get your stickers. Play the Fight Song sticker still available. Your logo sticker, your ball knower sticker. This is your all-important tag to be a part of the show. I know GA got his hands on his. Shout out GA. The PTF S1 to go on all of your laptops, cars, wherever you see fit. We appreciate you hitting our DMs and ordering those for $10 delivered to your house. No shipping. We'll cover that just like we do on Shop No Rivals. Use the code PTFS on all of your awesome new hats. We'll cover shipping for you there too. All right, let's go to the point of tonight's show. Let's talk top 10 quarterbacks in college football heading into the 2025 season. We'll start at 10 and go down from there. We should dwindle down, have some differences. Jake, you're going to lead us off. So, Jake, give us your number 10 on your list of top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2025.
Okay, we're already going to start off with a bang because I was kind of hoping we were going to do 1 through 10 because the buildup is that exciting. Number 10, I'm going to do it. I'm going Rocco Becht.
You're crazy, bro.
Never expected that.
Really? Like, is that not a shock to you guys? Did you guys really expect me to throw him on there? Because I don't
yes. I would have him in the top 15. So I don't think it's like dumb. I'm not calling you dumb, but of course I think you would slide him in at 10.
I just think that for the guys that aren't in there, and I'll get through the rest of my list obviously later, I just don't think I don't know if there's another quarterback in college football that led as many game-winning drives as he did last year, maybe just in the last 2 years. I think he's just been really rock solid, and maybe we can talk about him compared to some of the guys I left out at the end, but I don't see an argument where Rocco's not better. And I think he's actually getting underappreciated heading into this year. So I'm pretty excited about what he could do this year.
Yeah, I hope this is coming off the right side of my screen, but like, let me pull that page off of Jake's page. I got Dylan Raiola at 10. So we'll put our quarterbacks on at 10. You guys can laugh about that one, but what an intriguing story going into his sophomore season. Set the all-time passing mark at Nebraska for his freshman passing yards. Obviously, he's got what I feel is better and more consistent receivers this year. So it's an intriguing story, and his ability to throw the ball and from different arm angles with better receivers, you would got to think he's going to crack the top 10. And statistically, depending upon the way the offense works, but just because the ceiling's still there, he's slimmed down, maybe has a better ability to move in the pocket a little bit. Dylan Raiola is at 10 for me. JP.
Yeah, my list, like I went a direction where how would I feel if I was handing the keys to you as my quarterback going into the year? If you don't have a ton of starting experience, you're not on this list. That point blank, no Arch Manning, there's no Julian Sane. Those ones not on there. Like I'm not doing that whole song and dance because I don't know what they're going to be. So you're not making my top 10 list till you earn the darn thing. All right. That's 10. I have Drew Aller. I think another year with Kotelnicki will be nice to help him, but I think when he is okay and when he's averaging okay, like his average and okay level is below like what a star quarterback should be. I think he's just a jag at times. It's limited amount of times where I'm looking at him and feeling like he's going to change the game by himself and he's going to do something to really help his team win. Yes, he makes plays. Yes, he's made really good throws. Yes, he throws a pretty ball. Yes, he's got all the intangibles. I can do this all day. But the fact is that I'm still not there with him. Maybe personally, maybe I overhyped him a little bit coming into it, thinking he's really going to be the next thing for Penn State a couple years ago and really help them. And he hasn't gotten there. But I do more so feel like when he's not at his absolute best, it's kind of just a Jag situation for Penn State. So he's 10.
At 10 is that I am wondering where this list is going already. If it's taking out the young guys and Allers at 10, now I'm intrigued. So let's go snake style. JP, back to you for 9.
Yeah, I gotta find out. I wrote all my options down and then went through and numbered them off because
lost his list.
I just want I got it right here.
There was actually 1. I didn't see a 0 there.
I didn't write them 1 through 10 in order. I wrote down like all my options and who I thought so I could see and compare. So 9, I have Lenore Sellers. Now, I think when Lenore Sellers is at his peak, he's much better. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think another thing with that is he adds another dynamic to that game and to his team with his ability to run. Obviously, like when he struggles, like South Carolina struggles at the time, and we saw that a couple of times. But that was 1 year with full snaps. I think he's going to get better and better. And so going into this year, what I expect out of him in 25 is to be a top 10 quarterback in the sport.
We're going to piss some people off with these lists, gentlemen. That's what I'm realizing here. Because we're going to have some variations for sure. At 9, I have John Mateer at Oklahoma. I think I saw a lot of different posts and rankings on social medias, national articles that had him in the top 5. I'd like to see him we're affiliated with the conference school first, that it feels like they're playing for something a little bit bigger. I feel like the competition he played last year, I just need to see it a little bit more, but I think what we saw is enough to say the talent is there for him to be in the top 10. High potential, high ceiling guy. I just need to see more of it, but I like John Mateer at 9. Who you got, Jake?
Yeah, I appreciate JP saying he's not going to put anybody that hasn't really played yet, but that's just not going to be the case.
My list
for
is
me.
not that way.
Yeah, I got Julian Sayin at 9. Number 6 player in his class. He's got the best wide receiver in college that we've seen probably in the last decade. So he's always going to have a safety blanket that's going to be okay. And Ohio State's got a pretty good track record of developing quarterbacks. So I think it's going to work out. Ironically, after the Timberwolves were getting, piss pounded last night by 40, I flipped it over to the Ohio State spring game. I actually liked what I saw. I thought it was really good. I think it's pretty low to have him at 9 because I think by the end of the year, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback.
All right. That's a young guy there. Let's go back to you for 8.
Also a young guy, but we've seen enough of him. I have Lagway, DJ Lagway out of Florida. Thought he played well down the stretch, turned Florida's season around. That gives them a lot of hype and confidence going into this year. The concern for me, if you didn't know, he hasn't thrown all spring. I think it's a shoulder injury is what they said. That has me very skeptical and very nervous. But, take that aside. I like what he's bringing to next year. Maybe they're just on the precautionary stuff because he knows the system already and all that good stuff.
All right, back to me for 8. At 8, I have Luke Altmaier. And I think Luke Altmaier will be a name that we hear on everybody's list, especially JP's with the veteran style here. But the way he played last year, granted, Illinois got into some dogfights, like Jake always mentions, with teams they shouldn't have, I was comparing other quarterbacks on the lower end of the conference to Walmart versions of him, a.k.a. Hudson Card, because of how well he played. He ran the football. He ran the offense well. He had good experience at his wide receiver spot, so he's got to refill those. But I just like the way he played last year, and there's no way in my mind that he takes a step back. I mean, even if he plays to the level that he did last year with just a half a step forward, he deserves to be on this list. So Luke Altmaier at Illinois is number 8 on my list. JP.
8, I also had Altmaier. I think he is, again, an underrated quarterback within the world of college football right now. Obviously, like you're saying, he's going to have a lot of hype going into the year. We'll see if he backs it up. But I think when he's good, he's definitely brought that Illinois team up a couple of notches. Down to 7, I have Rocco Beck at 7. That's why I wasn't surprised.
Wow, look at that.
I've never been a Rocco hater. I think he's 1,000 times better than Purdy. I think he's
okay. We can
honestly,
kind of.
All I know is they shouldn't have pushed down Castro to press coverage. I just think of that video every time.
I don't know about 1,000 times better, but I've been saying it. I think he's got.
I think he's better
at legacy than Purdy does. But
yeah, he'd be the first I'd build a statue for before Purdy if we're doing it on legacy of that stature. 7 for Rocco because, yeah, he's made some mistakes that make no sense. But find me a quarterback in college football that hasn't. I'll go 7 because, like Jake talked about, like a lot of game-winning drives, had a lot of situations where it had to be him to do something to save games. And I think he's just projectable, man. He's gotten better and better every year, and it is tangible evidence. And it's also like the mental side of things. You can see him doing things better and quicker. You can see him going through the game and playing a little bit better. You can see him just getting better as a quarterback overall. No reason he can't continue to do it this year. That's why I got him at 7.
Altmaier is the only one I don't have on my list, but he's the one I was like kind of conflicting between him and Rocco. But the reason I give the upper hand to Rocco is I think at times with the Brett Bielema offense, Altmaier's more of a game manager. And obviously Rocco's much more dependent on to win games with his arm than I think Altmaier was. So that's why I gave my 10 spot to Rocco instead of Altmaier.
All right. For my 7, I have Garrett Nussmeiser on here from LSU. And I have him at 7 just because of some of the decision-making issues he had last year on the road at South Carolina and some tough environments. But overall, his play has him deserving to be on this list. I think similar to Altmaier, he takes a small step forward. It could make a world of difference for that team. Very good pocket passer, really accurate. So that's who I have at my 7 spot, Jake.
Was disappointed to see him as high on, or I guess as low on JP's list. 7, I have Lenore Sellers. Don't think we've seen a skill set at quarterback like this in a while. I think he's got to become a better passer, but to be like a legit pro prospect. But in the college ranks, like we haven't seen an athlete like this at quarterback in quite some time. And I just think he's awesome.
All right. Back to you. Give us 6.
Number 6. This one's short and sweet. Sawyer Robertson at 6. And for those who had John Mateer on their list, Oklahoma wanted Sawyer. They didn't want Mateer. He was their second option. So enough said there. Sawyer Robertson at 6.
All right. I like that. At 6, I have Arch Manning. Now, I didn't follow JP's rule. I have him at 6, which is a lot lower than most national media outlets and people in general. But it's because I haven't seen much on field. Like, obviously, he's shown the ability to run, breaking off long touchdown runs and blowouts, shown the ability to throw, but seeing him put it together could move him up on this list by the end of the year. But right now, I think just what we've seen, the talent he has, I have him at 6, but that's still pretty high in college football. So I expect a lot out of Arch. JP.
6, I got Carson Beck. I think I subscribe to more it wasn't just his problem at Georgia. I think it was a multitude of things. I think he will be good at Miami. Now, is he going to set the world on fire? No, but you can trust that guy to not make a ton of mistakes. You can trust that guy to control an offense and get the ball into people who make plays. And so I put him at 6 because I do think he's going to have a really good year at Miami. Now, who he is off the field, I don't know anything about it. There's more rumors than you can count. But, hey, I'll put him at 6 because I think he's a pretty solid quarterback. 5. Now we're into the top 5. We're
in the top 5. This is big news. All right. Top 5, DJ Lagway first.
Yep, DJ Lagway at 5. Jake, you talked about like you haven't seen this skill set at quarterback before. I would argue that you have an Anthony Richardson and now DJ Lagway. I like Lagway more than Sellers. I think, man, he changed that Florida team almost in like 1 week, 2 weeks time. They were completely playing a different brand of football. Freak athlete, obviously all the intangibles, but it just sounds like he is a really good fit in Gainesville and fits that scheme really well. And I think with being as young as he is with his upside, if they can just keep him, on the trajectory of just getting better year by year and not trying to do too much too early, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback for the next couple of years.
All right. For my 5, I also have DJ Lagway. High ceiling. I'm going to just echo all the parts JP said to kind of kick this into gear. But the way he changed that Florida team and the ability he has at healthy, obviously massive point from Jake that if he's healthy throughout the year, he'll be there. But as long as he doesn't get into turnover trouble, he's going to take this Florida team to a much better spot. Jake.
5, I have Nussmeier. I think he's got the highest ceiling out of all these quarterbacks. If he becomes more consistent with this new wide receiver group, Brown from Kentucky coming in, I think he's going to put up massive numbers. Like you saw what Jaden Daniels put up a couple of years ago. I think Nuss could do the same thing. It's just a matter of if he can keep his turnovers down.
All right. Back to you for 4. Still haven't figured out how this is gone yet. JP jumped on the train, figured out how this was going, gives 2 picks at a time. Jake, I got to go back to him.
That's all right. 4, I got Drew Aller, actually. just because I got to keep him top. He's got the lowest ceiling, but I think he's the most consistent out of all of these quarterbacks. Could be number one if he just gets over the Notre Dame, the Ohio State, Michigan game humps.
His
If he
slow
gets over
games,
those,
yeah.
If he gets over those and makes big plays, he could be a top 5 draft pick next year. Like, people are already talking about him being a super high NFL draft pick. He's just got to get over those big spotlight games, and he's got a really good shot this year.
It could take one big one for Aller to just change everybody's opinion on him. I like that.
Yes.
At 4 for me, I have Lenore Sellers. And how many times have I said throughout this list with all these young guys, high ceiling? Lenore Sellers has a high ceiling even just where he's at. Like, we've seen the ability to run, seen his ability to throw, the way he operates at South Carolina offense when he's at his best is unbelievable. I like him in this spot as a top 5 quarterback. I feel comfortable. I think he'll make his case for me this season. And maybe if people didn't get a glimpse of it last year, they're definitely going to get a full dose of it this year. So Lenore Sellers at 4 for me. JP.
Yep, 4 for me. I'm going to go Sawyer Robertson. I'm pretty high on this one. I think as far as you look as a guy with, honestly, I'm going to call it a track record at this point. Like, I feel like that Baylor team was solid, but they weren't going to be what they were last year without this guy, under center and calling the shots here. I think he's obviously very primed to have another big year in a Big 12 that's crazy and going to need him to do so. Is Baylor going to be better overall? Yet to be seen. But I have a hard time thinking they're going to be any worse. I could see him, if he repeats the same numbers as last year and does exactly what he did last year, there's no reason he shouldn't be here. Talk about a guy that's going to end up on draft boards. Number 3, this one I'm a little bit kind of up and down on as far as if he's 3 or if there's guys that could be in his spot. Give me Sam Leavitt. I think when you watch Sam Leavitt just play, I think there's a difference in how a guy plays. And you can tell just watching a ton of college football week to week on like how hard a guy plays, how hard guys play for certain quarterbacks, maybe their ability to make decisions and just make plays in big spots. I think the guy's one of them. We were high on him before he got to Arizona State. He was well recognized and people knew that he was going to be something. He just gets a shot in a different location down in the desert and it works out. I think one thing that he has to keep rolling is just he's got to improve and he can't hear the noise because the Big 12 is so nutty all the time. And if you live down in Tempe and get into the wrong stuff, it can go down south fast. So just making sure that Sam Leavitt stays on the trajectory he's on and understands that it is a hard conference to win every year. And it's not all glitz and glam. It's not all easy to do. Now it's a full season in the spotlight.
I like that pick. All right. For my number 3, I have Drew Aller here in this spot. And I only have him at 3 and not at the top 2 spots because of those humped games. But when we've seen, NFL level plays from Aller, he's like that. He has that ability. We've seen it before. So I think if he can get over the hump, like Jake said, and all the points JP mentioned, then he deserves to be in this spot. JP had him way far down, but still said the same things. I think this year with this Penn State team and a couple added weapons, they lost one last week, thoughts with Julian Fleming, but he has the ability to do so, and I see him right now as a top 3 quarterback in the sport. Jake, your number 3 and 2.
Arch Manning at 3. Recruiting record. I haven't seen a prospect like this in a while. I understand, the name probably is put into that a little bit, but guess who
Colts man, by the way.
Yeah, well, guess who his play caller is, and guess who his head coach is? It's Steve Sarkisian, one of the best in the game. Kind of like Ryan Day with Julian saying, I trust him. And his ability to use his legs, too, I don't think gets enough consideration on how good he could be if he can, live up to the Manning name and throw at an elite level like he could there. So, and we've seen an enough sample size of him. It's not like we haven't seen him play a game. He started a couple last year. Number 2, I only paused because I thought about switching 1 or 2 around. You're going to know who I'm going to go for number 1 if I say this. But number 2, I will put Sam Leavitt. I think he's the best dual threat quarterback probably in college football. Arizona State lost 1 regular season game with him in the starting lineup last year, and it was just kind of a weird, funky game. I think he's with Jordan Tyson back. That's going to be massive for his numbers. We'll see if Kanye Udo can pick up the slack running the football, but I think Leavitt's really, really good, and Oregon wanted to pay for him too, so that just kind of speaks to how good he is.
All right, I'll give the name probably everybody's left on their list At my 2 slot, I have Cade Klubnik at the University of Clemson. Obviously, we've seen the bad sides of Klubnik, and he's the guy we've talked about in all of our previews, having all the preseason hype of the Heisman Trophy and how I thought it would benefit him last year for not having that hype. And the way he went through about the first 4 or 5 games of the season after their loss, he was just ripping numbers, and he's shown the ability to run. He comes back for another year. You expect him to get better. He's going to be in the spotlight all season long and high right now in the minds of NFL fans. So Cade Klubnik's my second best quarterback in the sport just because of his experience and what he brings to the table running the football as well. So Klubnik number 2 for me. JP 2 and start the ones.
Garrett Nussmeier's number 2. I think we touched on a little bit ago, so I'll be quicker on his. Kill the turnovers, continue to find weapons on the outside in that offense that benefits you a ton, and the numbers could be anywhere from all-time to excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with Nuss right
100%.
now. One, we've already talked about it. I think we kind of both know where we're at on this just based on who was 2. One is Klubnik. I think you can't look at the numbers that he put up last year and kind of ignore them. I think you're in a weird spot with Clemson where they lose early. He doesn't look great in some of the games, but then he kind of gets into this. He's similar to Rocco and how many games he had to go win with his legs or with his arm, right? Like he really had to bail Clemson out at times. I think that now that receiver room's better, he can only get better, right? Like he was kind of doing on a receiver room that was either not healthy, very young, talented, but very young. Or just not that's not the Clemson receivers we're used to seeing. Body type, there's not a real check down option. So upside there, I would say he's the better dual threat quarterback than Sam Leavitt. Like that's why he's 1-1 for me. He does it both with his legs. There's not as much design things for him because they want to keep him healthy. But hey, I wouldn't, think it'd be crazy for them to draw up a little more this year with thoughts on a national title.
Yeah, I think it's an obvious or I guess a good debate to have is Leavitt versus Klubnik in the dual threat range. I think we just haven't seen enough product from Leavitt. He could be better than Klubnik, but what we've seen from Klubnik, you got to give him the edge probably. But number 1 for me is Sam Leavitt. I think the ceiling on this kid and the way we saw him compete against one of the best teams in college football in Texas last year, the swagger about him, like the kid just has a lot of confidence and plays with that when he plays. And he gets his number 1 receiver back in Jordan Tyson, like Jake mentioned. So I expect a big year from Leavitt. And this was a guy I was really hoping Nebraska would target when he left Michigan State. They didn't get him. He goes down to whatever, Scottsdale, Tempe, whatever the hell it is. And he has an absolute unbelievable year and leads Arizona State to the Big 12 title and college football playoff. So big expectations, but I expect another year of great from Sam Leavitt at the number 1 spot. Jake.
Yeah, Klubnik, obviously. I don't feel as great about it, but he's the most experienced out of this entire – he's probably the most experienced player in college football. I mean, he's been, a 4-year starter now? It just feels like years he's been around the block. We talked about the receivers. I love TJ Moore. I think he's exactly what he needs, that he's exactly what Klubnik needs, that Klubnik just hasn't had a consistent, or Clemson hasn't had, quite frankly, in a few years as a consistent, good wide receiver. So I don't know if I would put all my money on him that he's the number 1 quarterback in the country, but just the stats and the experience. And I think the upside, there's still a little bit of upside left for him that, I think he could get Clemson to a couple playoff wins this year if they play as high as they're supposed to.
All right, that rounds it out. That's our top 10 list of quarterbacks heading into the 2025 season. Let us know in the comments if we missed anybody, who should have been higher, who you have as the number 1 quarterback in college football. Let us know. Drop that down below. We appreciate you, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. All right, the last point of tonight's show, we got to throw in our G5 sprinkle. Let's rank the top 5, group of 5 quarterbacks heading into 2025. How many 5s can we say in one sentence? Let's start it off at 5 and go down to 1. We'll go JP first on this one. Same style, Snake. Start off with 5, though.
5, I have Owen McCown. I think you kind of look at the G5 right now, and a lot of the guys that you may have on top of this list no longer play within the G5. So there's going to be names on here going into 26 that aren't on this 25 list just based on how many games they've played. I'll go with Owen McCown because I do understand that, UTSA didn't have the year that they wanted to last year. But I think he was very respectable in what he did, throwing for 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 picks. It's going to get the job done. It's hard to, follow in the Frank Harris shoes down there, especially in the winning ways they were having. But I think he's a solid quarterback and a guy you can rely on.
All right, I like that pick. It's not a guy I had on my list, but definitely fair. At 5, I had Byron Brown over at USF. A guy that had a lot more hype leading into last season, kind of had some letdowns, had injury. He battled back in some spots, but big body, still has the ability to win games for that team. Another year of experience under his belt. So I like Brown in my 5 spot there in USF. Hopefully they can take a step forward as a team, but I know he's a great player nonetheless. So 5 for me, Byron Brown at USF. Jake.
Great poll on McCown, JP. Kind of pissed I didn't have him, but I do have a little honorable mentions. Maybe we'll get to that. 5, I got Maddox, Mad Dog, Madsen. To be honest with you, it's kind of like Cade Klubnik when the Power 4 conversation. I don't feel great with him on here, but he did throw for 3,000 yards, led Boise to the playoff.
People might have been looking for the run. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I'm just skeptical if he can do it this year without Genty and a lot of some good receivers left for them too. And the Mountain West was horrendous a year ago. Horrendous. They have a tough little schedule this year if you have a chance to go and take a look at it. So we'll see if Mad Dog can put up similar numbers in 2025 and if he's a legit. 4 for me. Byron Brown, again, kind of similar to what you had, Parks. Missed the entire half of the last year due to his injury. 7 games in 2023. He threw for over 70% in 7 games and had over 3,200 total yards on 64% completion. And kind of like Sark and some other good play callers in the P4, I trust a former Iowa State coach, Alex Golish, one of the bright young head coaches in the G5. I think he's a really good offensive coach. I think he's going to play well if he doesn't get injured.
All right. There's 4 for me. I have Parker Navarro over at Ohio. I like what.
I'm wondering if he knows.
Did we lose him?
We might have. I think we might have.
We lost Parks. I'm going to take Parks. Let's take Parks off the screen here. Or back.
What an adjustment on the fly.
Give us your number 4. Maybe
Let me go 4-3. Let me go 4-3. We get Parks back. We'll let him know where he can go. 4, I have Madsen. I think a little bit of what you said with him, like can he do it without Genty? I also think that Boise State just decided that's who they were going to be, and he could be better. But he does strike me more of a game manager in some ways than maybe some of these other quarterbacks as far as playmaking goes within the G5. So I'll take Madsen at 4. 3, I'll go Byron Brown. Give me a healthy year.
We all got Byron Brown. I did not see that, honestly.
Give me a full healthy year again. Give me a year where there's not a billion expectations on this team anymore, and let them just settle into themselves. And I think USF will be a lot better. So I have him at 3 because, like you said, like the numbers have been there once. I just want to see them again.
They're gaudy numbers. Like they're just crazy numbers when you go back and look at them. The Madsen thing too. On top of that, I can't get the 42% completion percentage at Oregon and the 3 picks at Penn State out of my head. Like I know that they got to play Notre Dame this year in South Bend. Like that's a better defense than both of those teams. Well, Penn State's pretty good, but it's similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see if he can do that. 3 for me, Blake Horvath. I'm all on the Blake Horvath train. I think that Navy actually has a legitimate shot to win the American this year. And you guys got to remember, he was a sophomore last year. He's still got 2 more years at Navy. And I think he could do things with Navy that might even pass the Bryson Daly at Army kind of conversation. I think he could do just
what about
because
a Keenan Reynolds type Navy career?
Yeah, I think really good. But Reynolds didn't even throw the ball as much as Horvath did he?
No.
1,300 passing yards last year for Navy. That's a dynamic we have never seen out of a service academy that I really enjoy. And then he rushed for 1,200 yards. I think he's going to be, again, he had some injuries too, I think a little bit, but performed really well against Oklahoma. The Army game was kind of his coming out party where he beat Bryson Daly. So do you want me to give my 2?
Yeah, go 2. That way we're on the same. Otherwise, I feel like I'll be at 1. You'll have to go 2-1.
Sure. Caden Beltcamp, now FAU quarterback out of Western Kentucky. Threw for 3,000 yards last year, and Florida Atlantic is the perfect spot for him because new head coach Zach Kittley is exactly what Caden Beltcamp needs. A guy who comes from Texas Tech who's going to throw the ball a ton. And I think a program like FAU, I really don't know. We'll get into preview season and how they'll compete, and maybe they'll be all right on the upper half of the American, but they need something that makes that program interesting this year, and I think Veldkamp is perfect for them. So he's at 2 for me.
Yep, I'll go 2 here. Back to Horvath. There's the G5's tougher because there's a lot of guys who aren't going to have a lot of snaps. There's a lot of fallbacks from the power conferences, and so it's tough to pull those down, call them automatic top 5 G5 quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
I'll go Horvath. Also, you can't put this kid and compare him apples to apples to other quarterbacks within the G5 because he runs a completely different system. Who he is to the system and who he is as a player is completely different than than a Byron Brown or a Madsen. So I'll take Horvath at 2, Navy quarterback. I think GA just said, like, if you're throwing any names out there for the G5, let's just reference the school as well to help them out a little bit.
Yep.
That way we're spreading knowledge. The guys have moved around as well. Like you just talked about camp, different schools.
I will say you mentioned that before, but everybody on my list played in the G5 last year. So we at least have, they're not like an old power forward guy coming down.
Same.
So they played in the G5.
Where are you guys at? Are you guys at 2?
We're at 2. Give us 3 and 2.
Do I have 4? Did you guys hear my?
I don't
4?
think I heard 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I was giving 4 when it went out, but 4 for me. I have Brendan Lewis, the Nevada transfer. He went over to Memphis this year. I like him in this spot. He was a captain at Nevada, beat out Chubba Purdy in that spot, the Nebraska transfer. So he's got some talent. But I also like him in that spot because of the system at Memphis. You just saw how what Seth Hennigan could do in that system. So even half that play is going to have the statistics behind it. That's very possible, Jay Bird. She is on one right now, zooming around the basement. So that's very possible. 3 for me, I have Matthew Sulka over at JMU this year. The transfer from – go ahead. What's the problem?
No.
Sluka?
No, Sluka. No, it's Sluka. And finish your point. Because I have a JMU thing I want to get to. So, sorry. Go ahead.
Transferring over, obviously, you remember the situation at UNLV last year where he didn't get paid the money, stopped mid-season when they were undefeated. They went to a good backup quarterback, so it didn't matter. But I like the talent, his ability to run. I'd like to see more of him out of throwing the football, but his ability to run means he can put up the stats, and we've seen successful quarterbacks at JMU in the past. We'll see if he can do it again. Go ahead, Jake.
So, one of my honorable mention guys was Alonzo Barnett III.
Yeah, that's a battle.
So I've been looking at it, and I know Sluka comes in. There's no reason why I don't think Barnett wouldn't be the starter, but I've been Googling things and trying to be okay, why isn't he mentioned? Because Sluka, to a lot of previews, is the starter. And apparently from what I've found on Reddit and some other comments, he supposedly, we knew he got hurt in that before the bowl game, but it's carried on to where he might not even play through the middle of the year. So that's something to keep in mind. Cause I was he was a sophomore last year. I'm why don't I see his name anywhere transferring, starting, whatever. So that's kind of the situation there. But I thought if he was fully healthy, he would be the guy, but I don't think he will be at this point. So just wanted to.
All right. I'm caught up at 2. Who's given their number 2?
We've all given 2.
Yep.
Oh, all right. So I'm the last one. My last one, this may come as a shock. Maybe you guys haven't, but I have Daquan Finn over at Miami of Ohio.
We were just talking about how we hadn't had any G5 or goodness gracious, Power 4 transfers back to the G5 on our list, but that one I feel like works. Yeah.
He doesn't count.
All right. Daquan Finn over at Miami of Ohio. Obviously, they've had a good quarterback there the last 2 years that has led them to success. But I think Daquan Finn, we've saw the good parts of him at Toledo. Hopefully, he can redraw that in the G5. So I have him at 2 just because of what we've seen from him in this league before and the success we've seen from that quarterback position at Miami of Ohio in the past. So that's my number 2. We'll go back to Jake for number 1 now.
I said it doesn't count for Daquan Finn because I have Daquan Finn at number 1. Daquan Finn is my number 1 quarterback in the group of 5. I think he's one of the best storylines of the year. This should be one of the best storylines in college football, but it just doesn't get enough love. Obviously, backstory, Parks kind of explained it. Tried it at Baylor last year after winning MAC MVP at Toledo 2 years ago. Got hurt. Robertson takes the job. Comes back to out of any school in the group of 5. You go to Miami of Ohio, which has basically been it's kind of a rivalry between Miami and Toledo as who's the best team in the conference. Those teams are going to be the best in the conference again this year. So I don't know. I haven't checked the schedule. I don't know if they play. God, I hope they do because that's awesome television. I still think the talent's there. I still think he's really good, and just last year was just an unfortunate situation.
JP, you're number one.
I was kind of hoping I was going to be the lone wolf here on having this guy near the top. I'll take Caden Veltkamp here. I think just him leaving Western to go to FAU was a little bit of like, give me more competition type stuff. But my goodness, this kid can sling the football, and a lot of them can at Western. Ton of fun to watch. Very good decision maker. Doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Consistently moving that offense up in direction. I mean, he's got to literally outscore everybody he plays. And what is he like? 6'5". Like, he's tall and lanky. Kid. Young kid. Have another good year at FAU. Might find him on a Power 4 roster the next year.
100%.
All right, my number one. This may come as a shock to you. It probably wasn't on either of your lists. Probably on an honorable mention for Jake, though. But if you couldn't tell by the cover of the episode, I have Parker Navarro at Ohio. The reigning MAC champs.
Didn't you have Parker Navarro at 5?
I think you said Parker Navarro already.
No, I didn't. I gave Byron Brown at 5.
Well, who's 4?
I think
I came on the show and said 4. Brendan Lewis.
Okay. I'm not JB.
No,
I'm with you too. I swear I heard him say Parker Navarro. I think
I said Byron Brown, Brendan Lewis, Matthew Sulka, Daquan Finn, Parker Navarro. What's going on here?
No, I swear to goodness, I heard that.
I think before you cut out, you said we'll go back and check the film later.
Maybe you were just referencing him, but I thought I heard that name.
I might have been referencing him at the start of my 4th pick, I guess. I can't remember. I was so pissed that my Wi-Fi cut out. So the film might be prove me wrong there. The eye in the sky won't lie. But Navarro at 1 for me is what I have. The reigning MAC champion. I like what I saw from him. I think the quarterback he replaced, we obviously saw the success he had in the Power 5. So we know they can recruit quarterbacks there. And now, second year in the starting position, honestly, he started over Rourke majority of the year, or could have 2 years ago. So I like his ability to run the football is obviously exquisite, and he's good throwing, and he's good leader of that squad. And there's a good chance they might run it back. So Parker Navarro at number 1 for me. Your honorable mention list, Jake.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to pick these. Anthony Calandria, I think, has a super high ceiling in the group of 5. Big whoopsie daisy guy. Like, he can turn it over a ton and do some stupid things.
Where he's from.
UNLV from Virginia. So I think he's going to fit right into Dan Mullen's stuff. I think he's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll see some Alex Orji at UNLV. Comes over from Michigan. Something else to keep an eye on. And then remember this name, and I hope I get it right. Micah Elahado. This will be Hawaii's quarterback this year. A Bishop O'Gorman high school
Sounds like a Hawaii quarterback.
Out of Vegas. Good high recruit for Hawaii. Gunslinger. They think maybe he might compete with some of those Timmy Chang records that he holds. So, and obviously Chang is the head coach at Hawaii. I think he's going to be awesome. And I think we'll give it into that in preview season. Hawaii's got a good receiving core. Kind of like Veltkamp at FAU. You need something interesting on campus, throw the ball for a billion yards, and people will come and watch you. So, Michael Elahado.
All right. Those are good honorable mentions. I did not have any on my list, but probably should list Parker Navarro for the 4th time, I guess. I mean, give me a break. Just like Jay Bird dropped in the comments, give me a break. I got a dog running around. I guess she yacked up her dinner upstairs because she's running so much. So give me a break. I'm trying to deal with this damn 5-month-old dog, and she's just keeps me on the edge of my toes. But all right, that's everything tonight. We ran a little long.
Can I give 2 honorable mentions?
Oh, yeah, you got them. Go ahead.
I just want to start too. I think Jalen Raynor deserves a little bit. Just I feel like when he's really good, he's like top-notch stuff. And when he's struggling, it is, ship sinking type stuff. So Raynor at Arkansas State there.
Clones will see Raynor again this year.
Yep. And then Braylon Braxton, now at Southern Miss. Was at Marshall last year. I mean, you can't put up 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on a Marshall team that wasn't very flashy and not get an honorable mention in the G5 best quarterbacks. So I'm going to say Braylon Braxton, Marshall to USM. He follows his head coach.
All right, there it is. That is the full show for tonight. We covered a lot. We covered college football 26 news. We talked about the SEC leaving the NCAA talks, gave our question of the day, covered top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2025 in the Power 4. And the G5. We did the top 5. So we appreciate you joining us and sticking with us through it all. including my Wi-Fi mess up, won't ever happen again. We love you. Get your stickers in the DMs. Shop No Rivals. Use the code PTFS for free shipping on all of your awesome new hats for the new season. We'll see you next time. Jake does have a new setup. I think he just went old headphones style.
It's sort of new. It's actually almost all reliable there, Jay Bird. But I appreciate that anyways. I'm glad we can all hear me loud and clear. We ready, fellas? We ready to send her out?
Yes, we're ready to send her out. Preview season 2 weeks away. Subscribe now. We love you. We'll see you next time. Jake, take it away.
See you next time. Let's play it.